The 2006 Stanley Cup Finals between the Edmonton Oilers and Carolina Hurricanes produced some of the most dramatic hockey in NHL history, and remains the only finals matchup between franchises that entered the league as part of the 1979 expansion agreement between the NHL and the World Hockey Association. The Oilers were returning to the finals for the first time since winning their fifth Stanley Cup back in 1990, and the Hurricanes were making their second appearance in the finals since relocating from Hartford in 1997, having previously lost to the Red Wings in 5 games in the 2002 Cup Finals. Coming out of the lockout, the Oilers entered the 05-06 season looking to return to the playoffs after finishing 9th in the West in 03-04. As part of the new collective bargaining agreement between the players and owners, the NHL introduced a salary cap of $39 million. This meant high-rolling teams needed to shed salary, and the Oilers, who had plenty of cap space, took advantage by acquiring Hall of Fame defenseman Chris Pronger and Selke Trophy winner Mike Peca. Despite the big additions, the Oilers started out slowly and found themselves sitting at the 500 mark through 19 games. But they soon found their footing and went 21-9-7 leading up to the trade deadline. Inspired by his team's hot streak, Oilers GM Kevin Lowe loaded up at the deadline, acquiring former Rookie of the Year Sergei Samsonov from the Bruins and goaltender Dwayne Roloson from the Wild. Despite the moves, the Oilers played average hockey for the rest of the season and snuck into the playoffs as the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Ryan Smith led the Oilers in goals with 36, and Al Ashemsky had a club-high 58 assists and 77 points. The Carolina Hurricanes had a less turbulent regular season, as they won the Southeast Division with 52 wins and finished second overall in the Eastern Conference with 112 points. The Hurricanes went above 500 during every month except one, highlighted by a 13-1 record in January. At the trade deadline, the Hurricanes added the veteran presence of Mark Recchi, who previously won the Cup with the Pens in 1991. Eric Stahl paced the Canes with 45 goals and 100 points, and tied Corey Stillman for the team lead in assists with 55. Martin Gerber was the Canes starter during the regular season, with rookie Cam Ward serving as the club's backup. The Oilers opened the 2006 playoffs against the President's Trophy-winning Detroit Red Wings. After falling in double overtime in Game 1, the Oilers went on to win 4 of the next 5 games to stun the Red Wings by taking the series in 6 games. Dwayne Roloson was outstanding between the pipes, with a .929 save percentage over the 6 games. And Chris Pronger gave the Oilers a steady presence on the blue line, averaging over 33.5 minutes of ice time per game, and tying Sean Horkoff for the team lead in points with 7. The Oilers drew the 5th-seeded San Jose Sharks in Round 2, after falling behind 2 games to none after back-to-back losses at the Shark Tank. The Oilers strung together 4 consecutive victories, including a triple overtime thriller in Game 3 to take the series in 6 games. Dwayne Roloson was outstanding once again, posting a .931 save percentage over the course of the series. Pronger led the team in ice time, with Sean Horkoff and Ryan Smith sharing the team lead in points with 7 each. The Oilers faced off against the 6th-seeded Mighty Ducks of Anaheim in the Western Conference Finals. Edmonton jumped out to a 3-0 series lead before finishing off the Ducks in 5 games. Dwayne Roloson continued his outstanding play, and Mike Peca and Chris Pronger tied for the Oilers' team scoring lead in the conference finals with 5 points apiece. The Oilers and their fans were off to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Hurricanes started their quest for the Cup against the 7th-seeded Montreal Canadiens, who they took care of in 6 games after surviving an early playoff scare when they fell behind 2 games to none to start the series. The turning point of the series was the Canes' decision to switch things up at net midway through Game 2 by replacing struggling starter Martin Gerber with rookie netminder Cam Ward. Ward made multiple highlight reel saves to help the Hurricanes get back into Game 2, and was given the start in Game 3 where he stopped 27 of 28 shots in a 2-1 overtime victory. Ward went on to backstop the Canes to 3 more one-goal victories as the Canes took the series 4 games to 2. Eric Stahl led the Canes in first-round points with 8, and Rod Brind'Amour led the club in first-round goals with 4. The Hurricanes faced off with the 3rd-seeded New Jersey Devils in Round 2, where they jumped out to a 3-0 series lead before ultimately taking the series in 5 games. Ward continued his exceptional play, posting a .917 save percentage and recording a shutout over the 5 games. And Eric Stahl led the Hurricanes in goals and points. The Eastern Conference Finals saw the Hurricanes take on the 4th-seeded Buffalo Sabres. The series went 7 and featured 5 games decided by a single goal, including 2 that went to overtime. In the end, the Canes took Game 7 by a score of 4-2 to claim the Eastern Conference title. The 2006 Stanley Cup Finals opened on June 5th at the RBC Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. The Oilers opened the scoring on a first-period goal from Fernando Pisani, and added to their lead on a second-period penalty shot goal from Chris Pronger, and a floater from Ethan Morrow. But the Hurricanes didn't fold, making the game 3-1 on a Rod Brind'Amour goal late in the second frame. The Canes pulled to within 1 less than 2 minutes into the third on a Ray Whitney goal, and tied things up minutes later on Whitney's second of the night. Justin Williams gave the Canes their first lead of the night midway through the final frame. but Ales Hemsky answered back for the Oilers just 3 minutes later. Shortly after Hemsky tied the game, Oilers starter Dwayne Roloson went down with a series-ending knee injury, forcing Oilers backup Ty Conklin into the crease. The game looked like it was heading to OT until Conklin misplayed the puck with just 32 seconds remaining, allowing Brind'Amour to deposit the winning goal, and Cam Ward robbed Sean Horkoff with just 3.8 seconds remaining to preserve the victory for the Canes. With starter Dwayne Roloson on the shelf after his Game 1 injury, the Oilers turned to UC Markkanen for Game 2. With Roloson, Conklin, and Markkanen all getting time between the pipes, it marked the first time 3 goaltenders had been used in a Stanley Cup Finals since May 1970, when the St. Louis Blues employed Jacques Plante, Glenn Hall, and Ernie Wakely on their way to being swept by the Boston Bruins. Game 2 was all Carolina, as the Canes cruised to a 5-0 victory to jump out to a 2-0 series lead. Game 3 saw the series shift to Edmonton, where the building was rocking early thanks to a Sean Horkoff goal just over 2 minutes into the game. The Oilers held onto the lead until the Canes tied things up on a Rod Brind'Amour tally midway through the third period, setting the stage for Ryan Smith to play the hero with a late third period goal that gave the Oilers a 2-1 Game 3 victory. Markkanen was strong between the pipes for the Oilers, stopping 24 of 25 shots in the victory. The Oilers got off to another good start in Game 4 when Sergei Samsonov opened the scoring at 8:40 of the first period. But the lead was short-lived, as Corey Stillman replied for the Canes just 29 seconds later to tie the game at 1. And Mark Recchi went on to score the game-winning goal for the Canes with just over 4 minutes left in the second period on a setup from Stahl and Stillman. The Hurricanes were heading back to Raleigh with a 3-1 series lead and a chance to win the Stanley Cup on home ice. But the Oilers weren't going quietly, as they jumped out to a 1-0 lead on Fernando Pisani's redirect of Chris Pronger's slap shot just 16 seconds into the game. The Hurricanes answered back with power play goals from Eric Stahl and Ray Whitney, before the Oilers tied the game with a power play goal of their own from Hemsky. The Oilers entered the first intermission with a 3-2 lead thanks to a goal from Mike Peca with just 17.4 seconds remaining in the opening frame. Midway through the second period, Eric Stahl poked the puck past UC Markkanen to tie the game. Then, early in the third period, Hurricanes center Doug Weight separated his shoulder when he was sandwiched between Chris Pronger and Raffi Torres. Weight didn't return for the rest of the series. The game went to overtime, where Fernando Pisani picked off a cross-ice pass from Corey Stillman, streaked into the Hurricanes' zone shorthanded, and beat Cam Ward up high to keep the Oilers alive. With that, the series headed back to Edmonton for Game 6. Despite the emotional boost Carolina received from the return of winger Eric Cole, who broke his neck back in March, the Oilers dominated for the entire 60 minutes, shutting out the Canes 4-0 to force a Game 7 back in Carolina. In Game 7, Ward and Cabriolet gave Carolina a 2-0 lead, but Fernando Pisani scored for the Oilers early in the third to cut the lead in half. With just over a minute to go in regulation, the Oilers pulled the goalie in hopes of forcing overtime, but they couldn't beat Ward. Justin Williams sealed the deal for the Hurricanes with an empty netter, and the Hurricanes became the third former World Hockey Association franchise to win the Stanley Cup, following the Quebec Nordiques, who won as the Colorado Avalanche in 1996 and 2001. And yes, the Edmonton Oilers, who won 5 Stanley Cups from 1984 to 1990. Cam Ward became the first rookie goaltender to win a Stanley Cup Finals series since Patrick Waugh led the Habs to victory in 1986, as well as the first rookie goaltender to be awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy since the Flyers' Ron Hextall won it in a losing effort in 1987 against the Oilers. And Corey Stillman earned a Stanley Cup title for the second straight season, having won in 2004 with the Tampa Bay Lightning, becoming the first player to win back-to-back titles with different teams since Claude Lemieux did it with the Devils and Avs in 95 and 96. That's it for this look back at the 2006 Stanley Cup Finals. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe.